The story begins with 3 students being chased by zombies on their school's rooftop. The girl named Rei had trouble fighting off one of the zombies as her heavy melons made her unbalanced. The zombie knocked her down while Takashi, who had lost his cognitive function, stared into the horizon. Her boyfriend, Hisashi, who was injured, smashed the zombie's head and saved her. Takashi was looking over at what used to be his regular school, which was now overrun with melon-eating zombies. Earlier that day, Takashi skipped his classes to brood over the loss of his childhood crush, Rei, who dumped him for his best friend, Hisashi. While on the stairwell, his daily depression ritual was interrupted by Takagi, who secretly wanted him and liked to stalk him around school, shoving her melons in his face hoping to get a reaction. She eventually left after calling him a shameless bum for loving a girl that left him because he was too stupid to take a hint. Even though Rei intentionally repeated a grade just to be with him, she eventually fell for his best friend, who didn't seem to have a problem tonguing his crush right in front of him. Before he could continue in his agony, he heard a banging on the school gate. There was a man who looked like a typical homeless New Yorker banging his head on the gates. The authorities came to shun the man. One of them got bitten and died immediately. He woke up a couple of seconds later looking like a newbie necromancer's first subject. The stupid adults who forgot what a normal person looked like got close and got bitten. As they killed each other, Takashi ran into his class and grabbed Rei, telling her that they needed to leave. She was asking too many questions, so he slapped her to remind her that feminism is only productive in times of peace. The trio left, and he told them what was going on. Rei tried calling her dad, who was a police officer, but the police line was busy. An announcement about the killer zombies was made on the school radio, but students thought it was a joke until they heard the announcer getting his brain chewed up as he yelled for help. What followed was a student stampede, with most of the respectable students fatally trampling over each other in a bid to escape. The love triangle decided to escape through the admin office, where they ran into their first zombie. After almost becoming zombie food on the very first try, Hisashi saved Rei and got bitten in the process before Takashi broke its head and finally killed it. They got on the roof and discovered that the whole nation had been ravaged by the zombie apocalypse. They also saw a Black Hawk unit, which reaffirmed their belief that something diabolical was going on. Back in school, 2 besties, Misuzu and Toshimi, were escaping together while renewing their friendship vows. Toshimi fell to the zombie's grip and asked her bestie for help, but Misuzu, who had become a psychopath, kicked her into the mouths of the zombies. Their vows of being together forever were still fulfilled, as the zombies also digested Misuzu. Back on the roof, the trio made a run for the observatory, and Rei got saved from having her rice cakes turned into zombie chops again by Hisashi. Once at the observatory, Hisashi started showing symptoms of change as he had been bitten before. Acknowledging his fate, he asked Takashi to end him before he became a flesh-eating monster. After he died and came back to eat his girlfriend, Takashi finished him off. After shedding enough tears to water all the surrounding plants for a full month, Rei scolded him and claimed that he had killed Hisashi because he was jealous. Not gonna lie, I would have done the same thing if my friend was kissing up me ex too. When he decided to leave her to spend time with her dead boyfriend, she hugged him and begged him to stay. Takagi was on the run with Hirano, a wannabe sumo wrestler who mainly focused on eating. She did a lot of tutoring as they ran together. The fat nerd was too naive to survive with her. He kept asking the most absurd questions, even suggesting heading to the staff room where the authorities that started the whole mess ran to, and also looking to call the police and SDF, who were clearly too busy saving the nation to worry about perverted kids. Meanwhile, in the school clinic, a student butchered a zombie who was a former patient named Okada. He was protecting the nurse, who ran around to find medication while carrying around her 800cc implants. While he persuaded Nurse Shizuka to leave her weed, the zombies broke in and he sacrificed himself to save her mega melons. After he got bitten and the zombies surrounded her, they were saved by Busijima Saiko, the president of the Kendo Club. She put Ishikazu, the melon protector, out of his misery before he joined the zombie horde. Takagi and Hirano, on the other hand, found the school's workshop class and locked themselves in. The fat nerd, who was definitely planning a school shooting, turned a gas-powered nail gun into a super Glock and finished just in time to finish off the zombies who had broken into the class with multiple headshots. Takashi and Rei were still at the observatory and used a water hose to spray the zombies. Back in school, Hirano went beast mode after Takagi revealed that she picked him to run with because his big pig belly made him an effective meat shield. Takashi and Rei fought their way through the zombies and were back in school planning how they would reach their families once safe but hiding how scared they were of their family's fates in the zombie-infested world. Takashi's mom, who worked in an elementary school, had him on edge as he imagined the same thing in their school happening with her. Takagi and Hirano were conducting tests and figured out that the zombies were blind and could only follow sound. After he revealed a strong desire to stop walking, she yelled at him, forgetting her latest sound discovery. The zombies turned on them and they went back to their survival mission. As they fought, one of the zombies caught up with Takagi and Hirano's nails had run out. Busujima, who had just finished giving the nurse's Gucci skirt a thigh-high split, heard Takagi's scream. So did Takashi and Rei. They all met up and joined forces to fight the zombies. After their death match, they all started catching up, and Takagi, who had zombie insides all over her, was having a psychotic episode as she was only saved by a drill. After going nuts on the newly formed team, she fell into Busujima's arms and cried until she lost all her water weight. Later on in the staff room, Hirano's flaps jiggled when he saw that Takagi wore glasses. They devised a plan to use one of the school's buses to get into town and find each other's families. After turning on the news, they watched a live rendition of their new reality as the zombies turned the reporters' brains into the Daily Scoop. As they watched the news to stay updated on the undead army, they found out that the pandemic had become a global phenomenon, with nations like Beijing already set ablaze while the US top officials and some lucky citizens evacuated. As it became clear they were likely not going to be receiving any help, they decided to stick together and find a way out. After smashing through a bunch of zombies, they found a group of students who still had their brains in their skulls. They helped them fight off the zombies and became an even larger group. Takagi reminded them of her sound test on the zombie, but none of them wanted to risk becoming zombie food for a rough guess. Takashi, the suicidal nutjob, decided to risk his life for their experiment. After walking through them and approving of Takagi's discovery, he used a shoe to distract the zombies while they ran through the front door. One of the negative IQ students they saved was using a tuning fork as a weapon and slammed it into the stair railing. The sound attracted all the zombies to their exact location. They all had to run while dropping their undead classmates like they were farm animals. Tezuko, one of the rescued students, got caught as his designer scarf distracted him from the zombies. Naomi, his girl, saw him getting eaten alive and ran to join him in the undead afterlife, neglecting Takagi's warnings. They found a bus and got in, but couldn't leave as another group of students came out and wanted to join them. Among them was a teacher named Shido. Rei didn't want them to save him and told Takashi that letting the teacher get on board would be a mistake. As they ran towards the bus, one of the students fell behind and sprained his ankle. He asked Master Shido for help, but the teacher, who turned out to be a vile creep, smashed his face in and left him to slow down the zombies by becoming dessert. After they all got on the bus, Shizuka strapped her 800cc melons with the seatbelt and ran through the zombie horde like a GTA driver, successfully getting them all out of their undead high school. Once on the road, Shido, the narcissistic creep, immediately made a play for power by establishing the need for a leader. As they traveled through the burning city, one of the students got pissed about the fact that their saviors didn't want to hide in a convenience store where they could eat all the Doritos they wanted and were obsessed with finding their families. He especially didn't like Takashi's face and wanted to pick a fight, but had his organs rearranged by Rei. Using the opportunity, Shido reminded them of the need for a leader and made them all cast a vote that he won thanks to his students who were likely more brain dead than the zombies. Seeing this, Rei left the bus. She didn't want to be in the same space as the narcissistic creep and reminded Takashi of her warnings. As they argued outside the bus, another bus filled with burning zombies had derailed and was heading straight for them. It crashed and locked Takashi and Rei in a tunnel separated from the group. He told Busujima to head back and rendezvous at a different location. Takashi and Rei left the tunnel as the bus exploded. He was immediately attacked by an undead biker who was wearing a helmet. Luckily, Rei was able to knock him out. They found his bike and used it to keep moving through the zombie-infested city. As they drove into the night, Takashi reminisced on how they went from being regular students who were caught up in their feelings to being head-bashing machines who had to depend on themselves to survive. He had an argument with Rei, the stick warrior, who wanted him to talk about their life or death situation like it was a bittersweet experience that was normal for high schoolers. Apparently, she didn't like the fact that he wasn't the type to sugarcoat reality with delusion. Meanwhile, the rest of the team on the bus got to the edge of town, where all the surviving citizens were trying to get out, causing the largest traffic jam known to man. As the soldiers on duty shot and killed the nearby zombies, some of the girls got scared, and the creepshow teacher Shido used the opportunity to cuddle the scared teens who worshipped him. Busujima, Takagi, and Hirano were starting to see what Rei was talking about. Takashi and Rei stopped in front of a police car. They went to get assistance from the officers and found them smashed up with a truck and infected. They decided to take the weapons the cops had for extra protection. Rei, who had experience with guns and had been bathed in blood countless times at that point, had no problem pulling bullets from the bleeding cops to add to their collection. They left and got to a gas station to fill up the bike's tank. It was a self-serve station, which meant they needed money to buy the gas. Takashi had used his money to buy juice earlier on and was now broke. His insecurities flared up when Rei threw some shade on him. He felt she was comparing him to her dead boyfriend, which revealed the reason she likely lost feelings for the toxic loner. Seeing as they were both broke, he went into the gas station to find gas, leaving Rei, who had caught someone's attention with her nicely curved rice cakes. After breaking into the cash register and getting the money, he heard Rei scream and ran out to find a huge wannabe rapper grabbing onto her with a knife to her throat. He wanted a girl to start a new post-apocalypse family with, and she was the right one to carry his kids. After mocking Takashi for being a virgin who didn't have enough balls to handle Rei, he revealed that he had gone insane after having to smash the heads of all his family members. He started feeling up Rei's melons while Takashi tried to negotiate, and he told the virgin loner to drop the bat, fill up the bike, and leave. After obeying orders, Takashi used small talk to approach the mad rapper and pulled the gun on him. He shot him through the chest and left with Rei as the zombies had heard them and were coming to dine. They left the wannabe rapper to have a reunion with his family and drove off. On a floating airport, the pilots had just confirmed the safety of all passengers and requested clearance for takeoff. They were denied permission as some of the undead had flooded the runway. A sniper and her supervisor were on site. She received clearance and took out all the zombies, effectively clearing the runway for the airplane. After giving her numb, heavy melons a wake-up massage, she spoke with her supervisor about their current situation. The floating airport was used to transport high-ranking individuals and government officials to offshore facilities and islands, but somehow the zombies managed to get to the airport by ship, likely brought on by some of the workers. They had almost infected all personnel in the airport and would have kept spreading if not for the D-Cup sniper who wanted to head into the city after her mission. Back on the school bus, Takagi woke up the drooling fatso Hirano to talk about their current situation. She noticed the airplane from the floating airport and told him about it. They figured that the plane was headed to Okinawa, a private island. As his brain was messed up from years of excess junk food, he thought they could go there too, but she explained that private areas like that would have become very strict with entries as they would be trying to limit exposure to zombies. A typical example was the narcissistic creep, Master Shido, who was having a good time with his loyal subjects at the back of the bus. Takagi's main focus was surviving and being with Takashi. Meanwhile, Takashi and Rei had just come across uninfected people who had gone insane from the zombie trauma and were killing anything they wanted. After barely making it out by dodging shotgun blasts, they headed for Onbestu Bridge, the rendezvous point where he planned to meet up with the rest of the team. On the bridge, they left behind. Policemen were stopping citizens from crossing as an effort to curb the spread. A backwater jock group led by Hyde, a wannabe bad boy, jumped the fence and marched through. They neglected the officers' warnings and got blasted into the river. Back at the bus, Shido's cult of negative IQ students was gaining ground. The group decided that they had to leave. Busujima was especially eager to fulfill her promise to Takashi. Her resolve killed the butterflies in Takagi's belly that had already been weakened by Hirano's fountain-drying simping. After Shizuka, who was an orphan, decided to join them as she was terrified of Shido, they informed the creepshow teacher. He didn't care about the rest of them, but wanted Shizuka to hang back for divine medical purposes. He got grazed by a nail bullet from Hirano, who revealed that he had always hated the teacher for bullying him and finally had the perfect excuse to kill him. Scared of losing his life, which was finally getting some action, the psycho creep backed off and they left. Takashi and Rei couldn't get across Onbestu Bridge as the same riots were happening there. While they thought of a way to get there, the rest of the team were fighting off zombies on the bridge. Shizuka, who was tired of carrying her mega melons all day, started regretting leaving Shido. As she fell and was suffocating Takagi with her melons, Takashi, who heard Hirano's nail gunshots, drove off a ramp to get to them. They reunited with a zombie bashing session that ended with all the girls of the Takashi harem looking for attention while Hirano was tweaking after seeing the gun Takashi gave him. Later that evening, with no way across, Shizuka suggested that they rest in her friend's maisonette, which was nearby. Takashi left to check out the place with Shizuka, who was squeezing on his eggplant the whole time. The maisonette met was a well-barricaded building with a Humvee that was everything Hirano, the cholesterol master, dreamed of. After bashing zombie heads, the gang went into the maisonette. The girls took off their blood and brain-soaked clothes and went to have a bath. In the bath, Rei, who had never seen melons like Shizuka's before, went crazy and couldn't take her hands off them. As the duo fondled themselves, Takagi, who secretly wanted to go as well, got sprayed with ice water by Busujima and took swift revenge on the kendo master. Meanwhile, the boys were trying to get into a locker to find weapons. After busting open the door, Hirano went crazy. He had never seen guns with such specs before, as they were illegal in Japan. He couldn't stop yapping to Takashi, who couldn't communicate with the potential serial killer anymore. He came to his senses when Takashi pointed a shotgun at his cheese-stuffed head. While loading up the clips, he revealed that he had received training in an American shooting range from a former Delta Force captain, which was why he had a PhD in bullet-based weapons. Remembering that all the weapons were technically illegal, combined with the luxury apartment they were staying in, they wondered what type of friend Shizuka had. Hirano remembered hearing about the friend being a part of the special assault team, which still didn't explain the expensive lifestyle. Back on the bridge, the people were becoming more crazy and fights were overwhelming the police and armed forces on the ground. The commanding officer got a message from higher-ups telling him to do whatever he saw fit to curb the riots and spread. To make matters worse, a bunch of Rick and Morty-style conspiracy theorists had assembled to protest. They claimed that the zombie disease was a biological weapon made by the Japanese and US governments. Another lieutenant, who was hesitant to shoot the zombies, changed his mind when he saw a dead child that resurrected and immediately ate her mother, who was trying to save her. The mother also turned, and then all hell broke loose. The commanding officer approached the crackhead leader of the conspiracy theorists and put a bullet in his skull, ending the protest immediately. As Takashi mentioned heading back outside to Hirano, he was ambushed by Shizuka, who was only wearing a towel and seemed drunk. She threw her massive melons on the virgin, who didn't know what to do with them and was more focused on protecting his meat stick. After giving the shy virgin a kiss, she went to Hirano. She gave the cholesterol ambassador his first taste of a girl's lips. His nose leaked as the shock fried his brain. She started to pass out, and Takashi used the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to piggyback her while squeezing every inch of her rice cakes. He ran into Rei on the way out. She was also drunk but was still crying as the booze didn't make her forget about her dead boyfriend or her missing dad. Takashi dropped the drunk nurse and went back to the kitchen after almost losing his sight when he saw Takagi sleeping. After grabbing a juice box, he saw Busujima making a late-night snack and blew a fuse. Seeing a toned, goddess-level body with nothing but an apron covering it made him lose control. He had to tug on his shirt to hide his massive brick. He managed to escape the temptation when Rei called him from the stairwell with her melons dangling off the edge. Rei was talking about Hisashi again and how their lives had become messed up. Her constant whining pissed him off, and he scolded her for always bringing up the past like a toxic pessimist and neglecting those who were still alive. Hearing him speak to her in such a degrading tone made her soak up in her holy regions. She leaned into him, burning with unholy intent. Meanwhile, at the bridge, the cops decided to have a live action of the Purge movie and made a laborer bulldoze the zombies and everybody that was in the way. After giving the order, another officer decided that it was time he retired permanently and put himself in eternal slumber. Back on the stairwell, Takashi stopped his makeout session with Rei as he was worried his meat stick would rise again. They heard a dog barking and went to the balcony where Hirano was keeping watch. The dog had attracted nearby zombies to their love hideout. While the girls slept, Takashi and Hirano kept watch over the neighborhood that was now swarming with the undead. Busujima came to join the watch party as she also noticed the rise in activity. There were some uninfected people still outside getting eaten by the zombies. Seeing this, the boys decided to grab their guns for a shootout, but Busujima reminded them that the zombies responded to sound, and attracting people to their location wouldn't help matters either. As she left, Hirano had just realized what she was wearing and had a temporary seizure. After Busujima told Takashi to put on his big boy pants, he went outside to keep watch with Hirano. They saw a father and daughter run into a compound where some people were holed up. He knocked and begged for their help, but they refused. After he threatened to break down the door, a man opened up and stabbed him in the gut. As he fell back, the man closed himself back in with his family, apologizing to the man he had just murdered. His daughter, who was watching the whole thing, started crying when she saw that her father had died. Her screams attracted the zombies. Seeing this, Hirano took out the zombies that were getting too close while Takashi left to go rescue her. On his way out, he met Rei and Busujima, who flashed him a solid view of her rice cakes for being a man. He asked them to guard the gate as he was going to use the bike to go rescue the little girl. Rei had also given him a gun just to be safe. He took off on the bike while Hirano gunned down the zombies in his way. He quickly made it to the girl's location but fell off the bike as he forgot he was a real person and tried to bike like a Disney cartoon. Luckily, he got there just in time and saved the girl and the tiny dog from joining her father. As he fought off the zombies with Hirano's help, Takagi woke up the drunk nurse who was sleeping with her divine regions on display. She went to tell Hirano to prep for an escape as their hideout was no longer safe. The weapons master got instantly bricked when he saw the drunk nurse. Meanwhile, Takashi was forced to use the gun as the zombies were increasing in number and getting closer. The girls of Takashi's harem assembled to help their master. After reminding the still hungover nurse of the existence of clothes, she left to get ready while the girls loaded up the Humvee with their stuff. After suggesting that they go to Takashi instead of waiting for him, Shizuka went to figure out how to drive the Humvee and Takagi signaled the fat hitman to join them. Takashi had given the girl's dad an impromptu burial and made her shut up as her cries were attracting the wrong crowd. Seeing as they were trapped, he resorted to his gymnastic skills and piggybacked her while walking along the thin fence. As he slowly came closer to his escape, the traumatized girl told him she had a full bladder and couldn't hold it. With no other option available, he let her soak him in her sacred juices. The team was on the way as Shizuka was finally seeing clearly and could operate the Humvee. Hirano was on a roll as he was being smothered by every rice cake and melon on the team. The fat geezer's dopamine sensors went AWOL and helped him take out dozens of the undead with laser precision. After taking out all the zombies in their path, Busujima hopped back on the Humvee and gave Hirano pink eye before welcoming Takashi, the hero, back on board with her melons. They successfully escaped and had their eyes set on their next goal, a family reunion. On a United States aircraft, the president and the entire crew had been attacked by the first lady who got bitten by the undead. The head of security pleaded with the president to punch the codes to the last line of defense to save America from all the other countries that had ICBMs pointed at them. The president, who had also been bitten, was lost in thought, upset that he couldn't have one last taste of his wife's sacred regions. The head of security started changing and begged to be put down after reminding the president of his duty to protect. Meanwhile, the waterproof Humvee was ferrying the team across the river, and Hirano was having a sing-along with their latest addition. Takagi, who hated the fat creep even more, made him shut his pie hole when he tried brainwashing the miner with lyrics about his serial killer fantasies. Rei, who woke up before Takashi, was admiring his morning breath and snores until she saw Busujima, who was still in an apron spread out on his thighs. She woke him up and embarrassed the competition by exposing her thick morning drool. Once they crossed over, Rei stopped the pedo creeps from harassing the miner and went to the back of the Humvee to dress with clothes Shizuka had stolen from her friend's apartment. The little girl's name was Alice, and her dad, who sacrificed himself for her, was a newspaper reporter. Her mom was still somewhere out there, according to what her dad said before getting gutted by a butter knife. While they dressed up, Hirano, the serial killer wannabe, taught Takashi how to use a shotgun. After unveiling their new outfits to the boys, they sent them to ensure the coast was clear. Once they saw that it was safe, Shizuka almost flattened the cholesterol ambassador with the Humvee. The first family reunion was Takagi's, as her house was the closest. As they drove through town, Hirano gave Alice a tour of the town's weapons depot while Takashi and Rei, who were on the roof, took in the calm breeze and were surprised that they had gone so far without seeing a single zombie. They got jinxed immediately as Shizuka ran into an army of undead and had to keep taking turns through the town until they crashed into a wire fence. Rei got thrown off the Humvee when Shizuka stepped on the brakes. Like something straight out of an Indian telenovela, she suddenly forgot how to stand up and stayed on the ground staring at the zombies in fear as they came to get a taste of city meat. As usual, Takashi came for the save but ended up wasting bullets as he still couldn't handle a shotgun. After Hirano explained the stance to him, he got the hang of it and started blasting brains. Busujima joined in on the fun with her stick sword. After his bullets finished, Takashi hugged Rei and prepared to cross over to the other side with her. As he held her, her gun strap gave him an idea. He flipped her onto the ground and used her melons as a stand for the rifle she was holding. He took instructions from his master, the cholesterol ambassador, and went back to blasting while Busujima was practically dancing through the bullets with her rice cakes and bullets. Hirano got a reload from Alice and went beast mode on the zombies. Seeing that Shichiro couldn't get the Humvee to start, Takagi also went out to join the zombie cleanup and walked right into the zombie's face. Luckily, Busujima's skills were sharp enough to save her. After wasting all their bullets on the zombies, their numbers only increased. Zeke, the dog, charged into the zombie horde and attacked one of their trousers. Taking the initiative, Takashi ran in as well, cracking heads as he went, and Busujima followed to back him up. Seeing that they had made their last stand after Takashi and Busujima's attempt to distract the zombies had failed, Hirano pulled Alice up and told her to jump across the fence. She knew they were about to end up worse than her dad and started crying, begging them to stay with her. Right before she got flung across the fence, a group of what looked like firefighters came to their rescue. After getting them safely across, one of them pulled off her helmet. She was Takagi's mom. Takashi and Busujima ran off after seeing that their friends were safe. They had to find another way to safely get to them. Takagi told them that they would wait at her house. The virgin loner and smoke show assassin ran through town looking for a way to get past the undead and reach their friends, but couldn't shake off the endless stream of zombies. After remembering a bike store nearby, Takashi took her there to find a new bike. She claimed that using a bike would be a restriction, so they went for an amphibious vehicle. He drove the water truck through the town and went off the edge of the road. The zombies, who couldn't keep up with the slope, tumbled over but kept getting up. So he drove into the water where they couldn't be followed. His stunt had left Busujima soaked. Her costume that had become transparent glued to her melons and goddess-level figure. Seeing her like that almost gave him a heart attack. The virgin creep couldn't stop gawking at her melons, which seemed even more appealing than Shizuka's implants. After the zombies started heading back, they parked on a sandbank where Busujima had caught a cold. He gave her a tank top to change into while avoiding her seizure-causing physique. She changed into the tank top and somehow looked even better. Takashi couldn't control his eyes any longer and asked if she had a man, hoping to secure a date with her melons. She said she actually had someone, crushing his undeveloped heart. They drove back into town. Takashi had come up with a plan and drove straight to the park where he crashed into the fountain, intentionally getting her soaked again. He tied the steering in place and left the engine running. The plan was to lure them with noise and escape. She caught on to the plan and went on a head-chopping spree to clear a path. Takashi was falling in love watching her do what she did best. As she chopped heads, she saw some kids who had been turned and froze up. Takashi saved her from them and took her to a nearby dojo. She had stopped speaking until he gave her a portable potty after she got changed. She opened up about what happened. She never shared her feelings with the guy she liked because she was scared he would reject her for being a blood-hungry psycho. Way before the zombie apocalypse, she was attacked at night by a pedo creep who was looking for some action. After playing the weak girl act to get him close, she broke his shoulders and legs and found out that she was a dangerous, blood-craving sicko who got turned on by brutalizing her enemies. This was why she froze up. She felt that she didn't deserve love, but he told her that it didn't matter, and showed her the love she deeply wanted. The next day, as they were about heading out, they were surrounded by zombies that likely heard their love throughout the night. Takashi got behind her, squeezed hard on her melon, and told her that he would always be there to love her despite how chronically insane she was. His aggressive abuse was what she needed to get back to chopping heads. Since she now had an actual sword, she sliced through them without holding back. After making him take responsibility for their baby, the duo made their way to Takashi's house where Alice and Hirano were keeping watch for them. It had been a day since Takashi came to Takagi's mega mansion, and for once they all had a normal day, except for the fact that he had gotten used to being around Rei when she had nothing on and was holding her in place for Shizuka to apply ointment on her back. After she left, Rei chased him out as his decision to use her melons as a rifle stand made her sore. He ran into Busujima and managed to unlock a new level of awkwardness. They were saved by Alice, who was oblivious to the true nature of her psycho friends. Takagi had just stormed out of an argument with her mom and gave Takashi a taste of her anger by roasting him for lacking a spine and eggplant. He was left with her mother while she left to go see the cholesterol ambassador who was still tweaking over his guns. Takagi and her mom explained that the people operating the power plants that helped them survive needed to be with their families to keep working. They were going to use buses to take the families that were under them to reunite with their loved ones. This meant that their group had to choose to either come with them or leave. As Takagi spoke with Hirano, one of the adults came in and questioned him about the gun but left after seeing Takagi. She told Hirano to do something about his toys as the adults wouldn't like seeing a teen carrying guns around. They all had a meeting in Rei's room to discuss their plans moving forward. Takagi revealed the reason she was so pissed when Takashi complimented her mom. She was pissed that her parents were pulling strings for their workers and subordinates but abandoned her after the outbreak. Takashi grabbed her by the collar and scolded the ungrateful dummy who took the fact that her parents were still alive for granted. Just then, her father, the current head of the Takagi family, a living slab of pure muscle, had just returned. He called out everyone and made them watch him slice off the head of his best friend, Doi Tetsutaro, who got bitten when he sacrificed himself to save someone else. He used the demonstration to show them the need for strength, as they would likely have to do the same if their loved ones became zombies. Seeing this, Hirano got pissed. He couldn't understand why everyone for some reason preferred to use a sword instead of a gun that had hundreds of bullets and actually guaranteed safety. After he stormed out, Takashi followed. He was also pissed, but Alice once again showed up and asked him to talk to Hirano and settle things. He remembered a lecture from middle school where his teacher highlighted the downsides of getting too relaxed. It made teams soft and caused problems like the one they had now. Soon after his brainstorming, Alice came to call him, claiming that the fat gun professor was in trouble. Meanwhile, Takagi met up with Busujima, who was also a koi fish expert, to discuss their decision of either joining or leaving her parents' mini-army. Hirano was surrounded by some adults who wanted to take his guns. He refused to give them up. Takagi's dad, who was close by, came to see what was going on and asked the fatso for his name and the reason he refused to give up the guns. As he explained himself, Takashi came along and backed up his teammate, letting the big man know that Hirano was the main reason his daughter was still alive. The living muscle slab remembered Takashi as his daughter's childhood friend. Takagi and the rest of the crew also showed up. She used the opportunity to throw shade on her dad, reminding him that Hirano was her knight in deep-fried armor, not him. Shidu, who had turned his cult into a breeding group of miners, got a call from a spy who delivered some good news. Shidu, the lonely bumped who had fully established his church of copulation, was giving his loyal subjects a heartfelt message, lifting their spirits and further destroying their already fried brains. As he addressed them, one of the students who spoke back to the master for stealing his girl was outside begging to be let back in and got sent to the afterlife. Takashi, Hirano, and Takagi went to address some of the families camped around the mansion and failed their mission, as the brainwashed geezers believed the outbreak was a mere sickness like the flu and didn't want to take orders from gun-wielding teens. Hirano explained that most people just didn't want to accept change, especially when it was as drastic as theirs. His wise words gave Takashi and Takagi something to think about. Takagi's father had called on Busujima and gave her a sword to inspect. She acknowledged it as the Murata sword, impressed by her knowledge. He decided to give it to her. She initially declined but accepted it after he revealed that it was his way of thanking her father. They then spoke about Takashi, who the group had decided to give the position of leader, basically fulfilling the virgin loner's harem dream. Takashi was in his room when Rei came in. After making her laugh, she revealed that she had failed to see how much of a good person he always was and asked him to make her his girl. She was ready to do anything to become his, and he knew exactly what she needed to do. He tossed her on the bed and explored the deepest regions of her essence. He had to stop as she was still sore from last time and couldn't take it. She met Busujima outside the room and left after telling her to stop reminding her of the fact that they were actually the same age. Outside the mansion's barricade, Shidu had pulled up and made one of his girls use her God-given gifts to make the guards let them in. Takashi met with Takagi's dad to inform him of his plan to go save his mom with Rei and left to pack up. Busujima, who couldn't leave her underage baby daddy in the hands of his nutjob ex, decided to tag along. Just then, they both saw Shidu as he was being escorted by one of the lieutenants who was surprised to see the son of Senator Shidu, the man whose neglect was the reason the monster was created. Shidu's mother committed suicide after his dad dumped her. He became a teacher to escape his family but still got entangled with his dad, who made him flunk Rei as revenge on her dad, the cop. She stuck her spear to his face and was ready to finish off the sick creep, but decided that he was not worth her time. Mr. Takagi, who heard the whole story, sent the disgraced teacher and his perverted group of brain-dead students away from the mansion. Russian and American Navy forces received orders from their likely dead presidents and commanders and started a nuclear war. They were being watched by some astronauts aboard the International Space Station. Japan was also the target of a nuclear strike. They prepared their navy for counter-nukes to neutralize the strikes. They successfully intercepted 3 but missed 1. The airport sniper, who was also Shizuka's estranged friend, had just tossed her phone away and told a worried bystander that they were about to experience a nationwide blackout. A couple of minutes earlier, Shizuka, whose brain typically had partial contact, remembered Rika's number and used Takashi's phone to call her. After catching up, she was about to tell Rika their location when a bright energy blast fried her phone. Noticing what had happened, Takagi asked Rei to try using her rifle's optics. It didn't work, proving her theory right. The blast was from a high-altitude EMP, which had fried everything electronic in the area, including cars. Shidu, the disgraced teacher, had an accident with a tractor as both their vehicles died from the blast. Takagi explained to her dad that, despite the blast, certain older vehicles could still work after changing certain parts. After commending his brilliant daughter, some of the zombies that came after Shidu's crash were about to cross the barricade. Mr. Takagi ordered them to close it, and Hirano shot down one that had slipped through, regaining his respect as the fat gun professor. Takagi's mom received her weapons from one of their subordinates. She ripped her gown and became a Lara Croft wannabe. Hirano, who had no shame or preference, became instantly retarded seeing his mother-in-law in her true form. She took some executive-level defense classes and could even shoot better than her husband. Seeing the rare pistol Takagi got from her mom brought Hirano back to life. He immediately agreed to teach Takagi how to shoot. The zombies broke through the barricade and immediately flooded the compound. They all spent the rest of the day fighting the steadily increasing zombie horde that kept pouring in. At dusk, one of Mr. Takagi's lieutenants revealed that one of their neighboring units was not being attacked. He decided that they would head there after fighting through the undead army. He asked Takashi to leave and find his parents like he wanted to and entrusted his daughter into Hirano's care. She didn't want to leave and got right-handed by her mum, who Loki always wanted to slap her sassy daughter. She asked Takagi to leave as the decision to let her go was tough for them. She hugged little Alice goodbye and sent the team away. They got to the Humvee where a patient Mado-san finally got a peek at Takagi's Under Armour. The Humvee was good but needed a little tune-up, so they waited for a bit and fought off some of the zombies. Takashi saved Rei again as she almost got her melons ripped out of her chest. After fixing the van, they all got in and left without Mado, who stayed back to fight. Seeing that their daughter was safely away with her psychotic friends who were now part of a loner's harem, her parents were ready to go all out against the undead army. Using the two-wheel drive, Shizuka managed to get them past the obstruction Shidu's accident had caused. After getting to the highway where they faced another horde of zombies, the team went out on foot to find Rei and Takashi's parents.